Hallo und herzlich willkommen zu einem neuen Video von Northern Finance. Mein Name ist Alex und ich habe heute gemeinsam mit dem Bernhard bei Ibancar ein Interview gedreht mit dem CEO. Ein richtig cooler Typ, der hat uns viel verraten, wie sein Geschäft genau funktioniert, und ich glaube, für Anleger ist dieses Interview sehr relevant und gibt mehr Vertrauen, hier zu investieren. Bernhard, wie fandst du es?
Mega spannend für mich, vor allem als Investor, wo ich ja wirklich schon für meine Verhältnisse relativ viel Geld in der ganzen P2P-Sache habe und davon lebe. Ja. Ganz, ganz wichtige Informationen. Und das Risiko immer mehr und mehr bis ins letzte Detail zumindest zu verstehen oder kennenzulernen.
Und darum geht es jetzt im Interview. Hallo und herzlich willkommen zu einem neuen Video von Northern Finance. Mein Name ist Alex und heute sind wir hier bei Ibancar zu Gast. Ich habe hier mit mir den CEO Alexander Melis und ja, wir führen heute mal ein Interview durch mit den Fragen, die wir auch von euch bekommen haben. Es kann also richtig spannend werden. Und jetzt geht's weiter auf Englisch. So, Alexander, please just a short introduction of your company and how you do things around here. What's your history?
The history is a bit different to other companies. We started as a shop with a different name called the Money Shop. We had 5 branches in Spain, and we were lending money to people who came into the shop. Sometimes against jewelry or watches. And then we decided that market was not really going anywhere, and we wanted to reach more customers without having to open more shops. So we had the idea of going online, and then the next thing happened was, what else can we use as collateral in this lending business? And then we came up with cars, and then we ended up closing all the shops and opening online from an office in Malaga. And the brand changed from the Money Shop to Ibancar in 2014. And since then, I mean, there are no more shops, and everything is online under this brand since 5 years now.
And how many employees do you have?
So at the moment we are 11. And everything is done in-house, so we have our own underwriting, obviously operations, call center, programming, finance, and marketing. We do everything here from one office.
Okay, and what would you, or how would you describe the average customer of your company who uses your loans?
That has changed a lot. When we started in the shops, and we started out with Ibancar in 2014, the average customer was a pawn shop customer, someone who had no access to credit, needed money almost immediately, and was a desperate client, desperate customer. Since we've gone online, and since we started marketing the product completely different, the customer base has changed. So we've kind of expanded the offering to, it's not a specialized loan, it's a loan. It's become a loan, a normal loan. And because the banks are lending so much less, even to their own clients, people are just coming to us. The fact that there's a car collateralizing the loan is almost irrelevant. So our clients today are, you know, from 21 to 70 years old. Some of them have very high incomes, some of them have zero debts. So they used to be what we call subprime or underbanked, but now it's the whole spectrum. We still have subprime and we have super prime. We have people with, by Spanish standards, you know, super prime, 4,000, 5,000, 3,000 euros net income, no debts, no bad credit history, and they still come to us because they can just click, 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 and
so easy.
And the car is there for us. To them, in theory, it makes no difference. A loan is a loan. You make the payments, and if you don't make the payments, there are consequences, obviously. But the clients, the audience has changed, and that's got to do with us, but also with the market, with the banks, the lack of other lenders. I mean, my bank doesn't lend me money. I mean, it's a ridiculous situation. Well, it would probably take you 2 weeks. I'd have to spend 35 documents. I'd have to physically go to the office, sit down, and be interviewed. It would be and it's a process. And because you can now just go online and go click, click, click. I don't want money from my bank anymore.
Yeah.
I don't like banks anymore.
I understand that in the fintech times.
Yeah.
I can see it.
I use only fintech as well, yeah. Also the online broker and everything, I do everything online. Yeah.
Exactly. And the banks haven't figured it out yet. They're still trying to deal with problems from 10 years ago.
Absolutely.
I mean, I'm a banker, so I can tell you all about
exactly the same opinion.
Yeah.
And how did you come and why did you decide to cooperate with Grupeer?
Grupeer was one of the top P2P platforms out there. So we looked at everyone.
Okay.
We really did a lot of work. We started out with the obvious one. We talked to Mintos, we talked to Viventor, and then you hit the Grupeer platforms, and we spoke to everyone. We selected what we felt were the best in order to diversify our funding. So geographically and product-wise, we looked which platforms needed collateralized loans, which platforms were distributing in countries where we were not yet doing our funding, and Grupeer ticked all the boxes. Obviously then there was some bilateral due diligence, we choose them, they approve us, and now we've been operational since March with Grupeer.
May I just connect with one question to that, because I think we talked about it before the interview, but I think it's really interesting for the viewers as well. So which P2P platforms do you in general use, to summarize it, for back finance at the moment?
At the moment we use Viventor, Iuvo and Grupeer.
Okay.
And in the future I would expect to join Mintos as well.
Mintos as well, okay, that's very interesting. And which one do you prefer at the moment?
Well, they're different. Iuvo requires more skin in the game.
Okay.
Grupeer are issuing SME loans, and Viventor we are actually assigning a back-to-back loan individually. So our borrower is basically facing the investor. So they're very different. From a legal technical perspective, I think as long as the investor is happy with the platform, then if it's the right formula for the investor, to us it makes no difference.
Okay,
right on.
Maybe one connected question, sorry for that, but it's really interesting right now for me as well, because I'm a little bit a bigger investor in P2P, to be honest. So it's on my own purpose as well, yeah. And the connected question is, why do you use P2P as a finance, as a back finance in general?
Well, the philosophy, it's the philosophy and the strategy. We have decided to set up a fintech alternative finance business because there is a real need, there's a real market, there's a huge gap.
Yeah.
And it would be a little bit hypocritical for us to serve this market with traditional funding. So what would be the alternative? Would we go and borrow from a bank or from capital markets and then fill up in the fintech space?
Okay.
So we really want to be an alternative finance from A to Z.
So the whole product.
The whole thing. And you see now that the traditional finance market is stepping into the back of the alternative finance market, because the people who are investing on the P2P platforms like Grupeer are not just people like you and me. They are professional institutional investors who are buying these loans. There are hedge funds.
Yeah, I know that.
So hedge funds and credit funds and professional investors with institutional third-party money are investing. Pension funds are in buying P2P. So it's become a gathering point, whereas the P2P was never really intended to be what it is today. we could go to these end users directly and pitch the pension funds, the credit funds, the hedge funds, and say, hey, we'll assign our loans with the collateral and you give us the funding. Or we can go to the platform. And these guys have found that, because it's just a convenient spot and there's due diligence there and it just seems to work.
So it's their service as well?
It's their service.
Because you could maybe even do it yourself.
We could and we do. We're obviously always looking for a diversified source of funding. We're always talking to other people, simply because we don't know what the future holds. We've been through so many cycles and booms and busts, so we have to talk to other people. But we also have to support the P2P market. We want to support the P2P. We want to be there for the P2P market. There are not enough originators, really quality originators for the P2P market. There's obviously going to be hundreds of thousands and millions of investors. Well, we need more quality originators. So we need to choose those platforms carefully. We need to build the infrastructure. We need to build the network. And if you look at the US and the UK, which have very mature P2P markets, which are many times bigger than the Euro market, you also see that the interest rates are a lot lower than what is being paid today. The rates we're paying on Grupeer today and Iuvo and Viventor are maybe sometimes double what our risk profile would be paying in the UK or US P2P market. So we know it's coming our way, especially in an environment where we have negative interest rates, negative savings rates. People are going to turn more and more to P2P.
Yeah, absolutely, and a very important point. And I'm very interested in that because my main income comes definitely from P2P. So I live from that income, from the interest rate, and also on the point of the institutional hedge funds and so on. I was at the annual meeting of Julius Baer, for example, last year, and they also told me about their fintech interests and they are interested in P2P. So it's very interesting that a big bank really says we need this P2P.
We have to be careful.
And we have to be careful, yes, exactly. I'm very scared about that. That's one of the points.
We need to keep these people on the fringes. We don't need them to take over because then we're back to being where we were.
Exactly that point, and it's so important. You put this in the camera and you put it again and again in the camera, please, because it's one of the points I see the most risk for me as an investor who lives from this income. Because if there is coming a really big institutional investor, then maybe somebody says, like you, I mean, that's the truth, or also like the P2P platforms, okay, we can take one fund that makes maybe 1 billion, or we take all these small private investors, so that's the biggest risk, also for the interest rate, in the discussion about going down with interest rate at the moment.
Now to
back to you, sorry.
Now to
I was
fascinated with
this interview, sorry.
With the path, but very interesting that that you can see that long-term interest rates might decline in the future.
Well, we have to. It's a currency issue, obviously. The central bank in Europe is doing different things in a different environment. But the interest rate is. I mean, you guys see it more than we do. Obviously, you're specialists of this subject. The euro and dollar rates and the euro and sterling rates for similar risks are very different.
And now from the bigger picture, now to your company, Ibancar again, what is the average interest rate you charge for a customer of yours?
That's a very good question.
Our business model is based on services, so we that's where we make money. We don't really make money, or not a lot of money, on the loans. So our end user is taking a loan from us, but he's also buying a pack of services which are related to the car. Maintenance of the car, insurance, total loss insurance if the loan is if the car is written off, and so with the loan component is 19.8% to the user, plus the services which are part of the package. The average loan is around 3,300 euros. For the maximum is 6,000, so we're well below the maximum. The maximum term of the loan is 36 months, and the average is 32.
Okay. And can you roughly tell how many, if not interest, how many fees are involved for the person taking the loan?
on an annualized basis, I mean that's another very key question, because you have to position this product in the market somewhere between a credit card, bank loan. So let's say like we have bank loans, credit cards, and then on the other extreme you have payday loans and pawn shops.
Yeah.
In Spain, a bank loan, if you can get one, 8% at least, 8-9% as a private consumer. A credit card, anything from 16 to 22%. On the other extreme, you have a pawn shop, which is probably 120-140% per year, and a payday loan, which is 400 to 1,000% per year. So we've positioned ourselves at approximately 60% per year as an all-in cost between the loan and the services. It's a moving target, because when this side of the market moves and that side of the market moves, we always have to move. But we're trying to catch both ends of it.
Okay, the market. Cool. Very interesting. And you state on your website that you can finance a higher loan to value with 60% than competitors, which usually do up to 50%. How can you make this possible?
Well, it's up to 60%.
Up to.
Okay. So there are a few things. The loan to value on the full loan book today is 42%.
Yeah,
that's the average. Now, 42% of what? That is a key risk question that a lot of people don't ask, because what is the value of a car? Is it the value in the dealer? Is it the value when the clutch is broken, or the gearbox is, or when it's 10 years old and it hasn't been serviced regularly?
Yeah.
So the value of the car is the critical question. There's not the 60% or the 40%.
Okay.
If you go and buy a loan on P2P of a new car finance, because that's very different, you'll find that the loan to value is expressed as a percentage of the new price in the dealer. So you go and buy a new Volkswagen, which is 30,000 euros, and the loan to value is going to be 80% of 30,000 euros. What's the real market value of that car? It's nowhere near 30,000. The minute it drives out the door, it's 24, 25,000.
Exactly.
So the LTV is actually over 100.
Yeah,
the new car finance. So what happens with us? We value the car. We're a member of the Spanish Automobile Dealers Association. They publish every 3 months. They publish 2 books with the values, the actual prices paid and sold, bought and sold, of every model car on the market. So they say in the 3 months in Q3 of 2019, we bought a Volkswagen Golf, 2 liters on average, for this age, for this amount of money, and we sold it for this amount of money. So we know how much margin these guys are making. The blue book and the white book. So we use the buy price, the dealer's buy price, and the dealers. So that's almost a fire sale, a low value, and we use a maximum of 60% of that price.
Okay, cool.
But it's not even finished there, because so that gives us the maximum we will lend you. So you have Volkswagen Golf, which is worth 10,000 euros. We would lend you up to, is worth 10,000 euros to a dealer who would buy it. He would probably sell it for 13. But he would buy it for 10, so we would give you up to 6. So now we've finished looking at the car. I know I would give you 6 in theory, but now I'm going to look at you. Do you have an income? What is your income? How old are you? Where do you live? Is your car well maintained? Have you paid your road tax? Is your car insured? Have you paid your parking fines? And then depending on the scoring, so our scoring works by reducing the maximum. So we start with a maximum of 6,000, and depending on how your scoring goes, your individual scoring, you will end up at 59, 58, 57, 50, 40, X. Alex will be X, and Baron will be Y, and you would get 4,500, and you might get 4,800. So the loan to value is still very conservative.
Okay, I can see that now. Thank you for explaining. I think it's also some new facts for the investors watching today.
Very interesting for me as well. Yeah. Thank you.
And now we talked how much a customer can get in terms of loan amount from you. How fast can you do this process and that diligently?
We've recently changed that because it was too slow. It was taking us 6 days.
Oh wow, okay.
And we figured out that that was because it's not an internal issue, it's an application process in the market. So because everyone is online now, people tend to click a few times and then they go away and then they come back and they send one document and then they go away and the next day they send another. And people were doing this as they could, as fast as the client, the customer could, because we have collateral. It's not just click, 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 it's click, 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 but you have to take some pictures of your car. Click, 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 I want to see your ID card, your pay slips, so you need to send some documentation. So we've recently switched our processing from being proactive to being reactive. So instead of chasing the client, which we were doing before, you need to send me this, we're missing this, you haven't sent me the right pictures, we're now reactive. So we've switched to WhatsApp. Before we were using telephone and email, now we're using WhatsApp. So 100% of our leads are processed by WhatsApp. 95% of the leads come in via a smartphone.
Right.
So now the process can be entirely completed from your smartphone. If you're sitting in your car with your smartphone, you can complete the process. And the beauty of using WhatsApp is that we can reply to the client, and if he's working, or if he's busy, or he's driving, he will get back to it 3 minutes later. So we're not trying to phone him and annoy people at the wrong time. So the answer to your question is now we can do it in 48 hours. If the client basically wants it in 48 hours. So the client can move himself to the front of the queue simply by just doing everything very quickly.
Yeah.
It's all in the hands of the client now.
Great. I think that's very good for future growth prospects. And are you doing this on Facebook alone, or also on WhatsApp alone, or also on Facebook Messenger?
So far only WhatsApp. We did 2 months of trials and now it's fully operational. Okay. And I would expect a link up with Facebook Messenger and possibly other things as they come along.
Okay.
Because it's the same platform. The thing is that it's WhatsApp and Messenger do not allow integration via APIs. So it still has to be. You have to use the WhatsApp desktop, which we have been able to integrate, but it's basically going to evolve at the pace that they allow us to integrate it, not the pace that we want to integrate.
In the beginning of the interview, you also mentioned that you also have subprime customers, so people who would be registered in the Equifax equivalent here. In Germany, it's the Schufa. How does that affect the score when such a person is applying?
From very little to a lot.
Okay.
Depending on what it is. I don't know how it is in Germany, but in Spain, you know, the mobile phone companies won't mention any names, and the utility companies, electricity and gas, they are very quick to put you on a blacklist. If you don't pay a mobile phone bill for 50 euros, you're on the blacklist, and that means you're basically out of the credit system almost completely. Okay. For 50 euros or for 100 euros. And disputing these listings is very difficult. If they do it unilaterally, right? They just list you. If you have a disagreement, you say, I don't owe you 50 euros. Yes, you do. No, I don't. Well, you figure it out. I'm going to put you on the blacklist. That's the way it is. So if you're blacklisted for something, for a utility bill or a phone bill, we don't care, obviously, because those are the people we want to reach.
Exactly.
They are virtual prime.
Yeah.
Right? There's no reason to take these people out of the credit system. It's stupidity. If the mobile phone company doesn't want to do business with you anymore because you didn't pay it, that's fine. But it doesn't mean the whole world should just stop trying to sell you things. And then we have a sliding scale. So if you are in in a credit blacklist because of a payday loan, and it's one payday loan for 300 euros. We don't really care that much either. If on the other hand you are in there for 6 loans for 50,000 euros, there's a clear tendency on your part, and you are a higher risk. So what we do in our scoring system starts at 60% of the fire sale value of your car, and it will be discounted according to your credit profile. If it gets discounted so much that the loan is below 1,800 euros, then you're declined, because the minimum loan is 800 euros.
Okay.
So it's basically a sliding scale, an exponential scale. So it starts off very slowly, but the more debts and the more amounts you have, the steeper the curve. And we prioritize the number of debts. Not having 10 bad loans weighs more heavily than having one bad loan of 10,000. So if you have 10 bad loans of 100 euros, or one bad loan of 10,000 euros, this is worse than that. Okay. Because it's a tendency.
Yeah. And in your portfolio, how's it performing so far? So you published some numbers when you joined Grupeer. Are they still accurate with only 5% of loans overdue more than 60 days? Are those still roughly the same numbers?
I think the numbers are actually improving because we've also changed our recovery procedures, and we've reduced the loan to value. Over 60 days at the moment, we're probably just under 5%. But we also do that a little bit differently as well. We count a loan internally to be non-performing after 21 days. So we don't wait 60 days. Obviously, on the platforms, on Grupeer, for example, 60 days is the trigger point. But internally, 21 days is when we consider it non-performing. So we give ourselves 39 days to solve the problem before we trigger a buyback on the P2P. I think that's very important. And because we have collateral, we start executing the recovery of the collateral at day 21. So in most cases, between day 21 and day 60, the client, the borrower, wakes up, reappears, has a vision of clarity, and it's resolved. And if the problems occur when you have people who are afraid. People who are afraid because they genuinely want to pay you, but they don't have the money to pay you. And they are so afraid that they don't want to talk to you. They won't answer the phone, they won't answer emails, they won't answer WhatsApp. Those people who are avoiding dealing with the problem are the ones that actually cause the problems. And they are the ones that end up getting escalated beyond the 60 days when we have to trigger a buyback on the P2P platform, and then we have to, unfortunately, in some cases, go and recover and sell the car. But it only happens in 20% of the non-performing loans. Okay. People usually need their car. Yeah. And
so they like to pay.
And when you get a notification that you are about to lose the car that you are driving your kids to school in, or you're going to work in, then you figure out a solution. And then you say to yourself, I should have solved this problem 50 days ago. So people come to their senses, but it's fear. People are driven by fear. And we will always restructure a loan. We don't want cars. We're not in the car business.
Right. Business model.
Yeah.
I like it. I like it as an investor because it really sounds good.
If not, we would have 100 cars. We would have people running around all over the country. We don't want cars. We're not in the car business. We're in the loan business.
And for our continuing the point of credit performance, how much fraud is there, and how many customers act in a fraudulent way?
I think I can say safely 4. Over 4 out of in 5 years. So people find flaws in your procedure. They find the gaps. 99% of people who take out a loan want to pay it back. But there are some people out there who intentionally are not going to pay you back. And then when there's a car as collateral, these people usually go and borrow from someone else. They don't come to you because you want the collateral. Yeah. But we've had a few cases when false documentation has been falsified, or pay slips have been falsified, or things like, you know, the car doesn't belong to them. And over the 4 years, I mean, there's a limited amount of flaws in your system. It's like everything can happen once, and if you're smart, you stop that, you fill that gap, and then someone finds another gap. So it's happened several times, but not in the last 3 years. Okay. We still have a few outstanding vehicle recoveries which are more than 1,000 days old, but we don't write them off. A normal finance institution will make provisions for losses, for credit losses, and at the end of the year they'll say our profits were $1 million and our provisions for losses are $500,000, therefore we're going to forget about these loans and write them off. We don't, because sooner or later the car pops up somewhere. We had one recently last month which has been out there for 3 years. And it pops up, the guy was badly parked, the police towed away the car, they put it in the pound, the guy goes to get it back, he can't get it back because it's not his car. So the police phoned us. They said, oh, we have a car here which belongs to you. Ah, okay, is it a Seat Ibiza? Yeah, the red one, okay, yeah, we've been looking for that. So even 3 years later, so we could have written that loan off for €2,500, but in actual fact we recovered that car, we only sold it for 1,500, so instead of writing off 2,500, we wrote off 1,000. Yeah. So in this game we have to be rigorous in the management of NPLs, we have to be rigorous in our buyback policy, but we can afford to buy every loan NPL back because we know that somewhere between 60 and X days we're going to get part or all or more than that money back through the vehicle.
Okay. And what would happen if you're financing from Grupeer and the other P2P platforms would break away? If they have some kind of problem, would you still be able to continue your operations here?
If everything collapsed from one day to the next, no, we would have a problem. I think clearly we would have a problem. That problem comes with the desire to stay within the alternative finance world. Yeah.
Otherwise, it would be strange because by then financing.
Yeah, I mean, there are alternatives out there. We are continuously exploring them. The problem is you can't negotiate with an investor to raise several million euros and then not use him. You can't say, please stay there just in case I need you, because they won't do it. Okay. And then the alternative is you have to spread it. You have to say, I'm going to do 50% P2P and 50% via another investor. That also doesn't work. So we've made that choice.
Please stay on P2P, yeah. I need this. Otherwise I have a problem.
Well, I think,
be careful what you're asking, please. Yeah?
I think the Euro P2P market has the benefit of coming after the Chinese, the American and the UK market, so that it won't make the same mistakes.
Yes.
The risks we have are the macro risks. The economic cycle will have an impact, but then it won't impact just P2P, it's going to impact the banks and the consumers. And the value of cars, so that cycle we're all in it, so we can't worry.
Sure, we never know, the economic downturn can come in any situation, so
exactly. But we'll all be
in any kind, You
never know. Yeah, that's the difference between the risks, right? I mean, everyone. Where are the risks here? The risks are not in the individual loan to the individual clients backed by the individual car. That's not where the risk is, because I'm going to lose sometimes and I'm going to win sometimes when it comes on the collateral. So I have to have a system, a risk management system, which allows me to adjust my valuation, my processes, my recovery procedures, so that I don't want to make a profit on my loans, on the collateral, and I don't want to make a loss. I'm not in the car business, I just want 100% of my money back. with the interest, obviously. If I'm profiting from the recovery of cars, I can take more risk. If I'm losing on the recovery of cars, I need to take less risk. But I want to stay in the middle because I don't want to profit from cars. So that's my scoring system. That's pretty much under control, and I can fine-tune that on a week-by-week basis. Where is the risk in and every lending business will tell you the same. A bank, an online lending, a payday lender, car finance will tell you that they've got their scoring system, they've got artificial intelligence, and they've got they've got a brilliant scoring system, and they'll look at your age, your postcode, who you're married to, where they'll look at everything, and it will go into some black box, and it will tell them what how much money they can lend you. I don't think that's where the risks are in the lending market, unless someone's got a flaw in their scoring system. The risks are macro risks. An economic downturn, because then we all have a problem, and then the ones that will survive will be the ones that have collateral. I think so. Liquid, executable, recoverable collateral, and we've seen that. House prices can drop, car values can drop, so we have to factor that in. Why can you no longer get 100% mortgage? Because the banks have been reminded that house prices can drop. Yeah, everyone forgot that.
Exactly.
Yeah? Now you need 20, 30%, 40% deposit before you get a mortgage, because we have to build in these risk factors. We do the same with the cars. The difference with a car over a house is that I can recover it faster and I can sell it faster.
Yeah,
it's more liquid. A house, particularly in Spain, very difficult to repossess a house if someone is not paying the mortgage. Very difficult.
Yeah. And now we talked a lot about the processes in the company, but is it also profitable?
Yes, finally.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah, finally. We had a burn rate, so I mean every company that sets up starts with costs, and revenues come later. I wish it was the other way around. But yeah, we broke even in 2018, and 2019 will be slightly profitable. Not hugely, but and next year we will be, excluding lending capital, we will be also cash flow positive. So that it's going to make a big difference. We have to separate here the way the balance sheet of a lender works, because we have our own money and we have our investors' money. Two very different things. So when I say cash flow, I'm referring to our own money. Capital, the capital is very well managed. It's collateralized. So everyone asks the question: disaster scenario, Ibancar goes bankrupt. The first question I have to ask is, under what scenario would we go bankrupt? If we started to hire 50 people, or we started to spend a lot of our own money, and that we have losses, then the loans are still collateralized. So even if we were extremely stupid and started spending more money than we were earning, the people who have invested in debt have direct collateral assigned, which is at the moment 41% of the loan book. So the scenario in which we go bankrupt is very remote, and if we did, I mean, our historical recovery rate on capital is over 120%. So there's every chance that there will be zero losses.
Okay. So just to recap that one last sentence of yours, 41% of your loan book is financed by investors. Did I understand that correctly?
No, 41% is the loan to value on the loan book.
Okay, sorry.
So if we have a million euros in cars, in value cars, then 410,000 is lent cost. On the balance sheet basis, our debt to equity is about 1-to-1 at the moment. So we're very unleveraged.
Yeah.
So far.
Not
leveraged at all.
Even that much.
No.
Like very little actually.
No. But that's because we've been. This is a peculiar market. We haven't come in with a normal lending product and just gone bang. And we've had to develop this from the ground up. the software, the CRM, the interfaces, the underwriting procedures. We haven't been able to just hit the market and explode in size, simply because everything is new, the product is new, the concept is new, we had to design it. So we've been working on it since 2014, and we're only starting to grow now. 2018 was when we finally said, okay, now we're ready.
Yeah.
And then you think, well, maybe not.
Yeah. Always careful.
Yeah, let's be a little bit more careful. And then, so I think 2019 has been a significant year. This is the year where we've actually shown that all the numbers that we produced from July 2014 when we started are actually consistently repeatable. That the NPL rate is maintainable, that the growth rate is sustainable. And that the funding is out there, and that the appetite is there.
Okay. And so one last question from me. Yeah.
I want to add something later. You continue, and then maybe I have one very last question.
Okay. What are your plans for future growth, and what kind of marketing are you adding to it?
Plans for future growth? Well, at the moment we have huge ambitions, and everyone I speak to keeps saying, you know, before we go, when I say ambitions, I say we want to move to other countries, obviously, and we want to launch other products. In particular, one thing we have in mind is a prepaid debit card with the same underwriting risk, the same collateral risk, because there's a huge market out there of people who need 2,000, 3,000, 4,500 euros today or tomorrow. But there's also a huge market, which is a completely different market, who don't need 3,000 euros now, but they would like to have a Visa card in their back pocket or a MasterCard because they can't get one. They don't need cash. They don't need cash immediately, but they would just like to have it
just for booking or whatever.
And we could issue collateralized, prepaid debit cards. You know, Ibancar effectively.
Wow, that's cool. That's cool marketing.
Yeah,
that's really cool marketing.
To link to your marketing. So that's one idea. But and international is another idea. Which would we do first, both together, or I don't know, it depends. We're talking to partners, we're looking for partners. We don't have the resources now to launch credit cards and set up in 5 different countries. So short term, Spain, continue Spain, grow Spain. There's still a lot to do in Spain. And then I think towards Q3 next year, we will make the next product or country step.
Cool. So Bernard,
sorry, but you know, just authentic people know it from me because I'm from the investor side more than from the YouTuber side, because that's where I make my money.
Have you invested in Ibancar not?
Yes, I have, of course, yeah. And I will increase it. So I just want to summarize it maybe a bit, also on my opinion, maybe for your views. I'm definitely fascinated for understanding the whole story right now as an investor, to get the story from the beginning of the loan to your back financing at the P2P platform. What's also interesting for me is that you use 3 platforms at the moment, which is Iuvo, Grupeer and Viventor. I'm invested in Viventor, for example, and sometimes like this, sometimes like that, because they had some issues for the investors in the last months. But you told me it's easy for you and you like them, so that's very important information for me, because I can see the other side, which is really important for me. And if you say, it works, it's good, you would like to have it easier with the API. At the P2P platforms. We also heard this from some other loan originators already, so that's also interesting information. And what I think I will do, and it will maybe make you happy because you are an affiliate of Grupeer, I think I will subscribe at Grupeer as well, because I can get more Ibancar loans, because I want to get more of your money. I want to finance more credits and get back more interest rate.
Well,
I want to give you more money. That's the
absolutely right, but it creates more competition as well. The more investors. I mean, I think clearly in the P2P market we see that there are many more investors than quality originators. And as the P2P platforms become more responsible and ramp up their due diligence, they're going to lose originators. They're not going to lose investors. They're going to lose originators. So that balance is going to continue. The more professional the P2P platform is, the less originators and the more investors they're going to have. Right. So that balance is going to come our way, and interest rates are going to come down. Unfortunately for you as an investor. But if the interest rates come down, you have to assume also your risk is coming down, that your P2P platform is doing better due diligence and not selling you bad loans.
But I must say I was one of the first investors in P2P in the Baltics, because it started around 2007 with Pandora and and so on. I was there very from the beginning on, and
I was still a banker.
And so I think it's very interesting, and I think what's also a learning for me is to focus even more on the loan originator. Because to understand the risk and to control it a bit more, because all the people are how can we control the risk and how can I live with it. The first point is I think it's very important that you have to take a risk, because without risk it's the biggest risk, because without risk you don't make any money. And then you lose money anyway. That's one important point for the investors on this video. And the other point is that you should always have it under control, like a dog on the short line. So like let your money work, but always look where. And loan originator is one very important point, and I think you should just as an investor focus more and more on visiting loan originators.
There's no secret to investing insofar as the interest rate. People have forgotten what the interest rate is for. The interest rate has two components. One is to reflect inflation, to reward you, or to make sure that your purchasing power remains the same. So whether you give your money to me or to him or to someone else, the first component is to cover your loss of purchasing power, inflation. The second component is risk. Right? So you buy a government bond in an environment where we have negative inflation. That government bond is giving you minus 0.5%. Because that's what it is. There's no risk. You're always going to get your money. AAA government bond, Germany. Now you go to a payday lender, right, who is not collateralizing their loans, who is leveraged maybe 10 times, so they have $1 million in equity and 10 million in loans, and is not collateralized. They are going to have to pay you 14, 15, 16, 17, 18%. Why? Because if not, nobody's going to invest. And if people invest in those loans at 10%, then they haven't done their homework. So I think the biggest risk in the P2P market, or the risk, I don't know if it's a risk or to what extent it happens or not, people have to be aware that you don't just click on the highest interest rate, because lending money is easy, getting it back is very difficult. I think we always have to remember that. So the risk factor is key, and then the currency is key. If you are a dollar-based or a sterling-based investor, yes, you can get 12% on the P2P loan in euros and only 6 or 7% on the similar loan in the UK. But do you want to take the foreign exchange risk? So everything is risk.
It's a risk and a chance, of course.
And how do you reflect risk is a probability of loss. We have demonstrated here at Ibancar that the probability of loss is actually negative on a one-by-one, case-by-case basis, because of all the recovered vehicles, we have recovered 124% of the value that was outstanding. So we have a credit profits if you look at it that way.
And it's also important, it's always risk and chance. You can lose and win, because the currency, a lot of people, they may only invest in Europe, but I say I make a diversification. I make Swiss franc, I make US dollars, and I make Euro, because I never know which currency is in which direction. And maybe I live in Switzerland one day, or I live in the United States, you never know. So that's also important, there's always a chance as well.
And diversification means 4 or 5, it doesn't mean 1. Because really, dollar and euro is not diversification.
Exactly, it's just fascinating in this discussion. I know you want to finish it. Just one very last sentence.
Otherwise, the viewers, I think, won't be that interested.
One very last sentence. I think it's also, you told me it's about the risk and it's about the inflation, but it's, I think, one thing you have to get in mind. Money is at least a good, like every other thing. If I rent it, I get money for it. If I rent an apartment, I get money for it. And it's the same on money, I think.
It's a choice of assets. You have money. Would you like to buy a house? Would you like to buy a bond? Would you like to buy gold?
So how do you want to make money? And I can just give the money to somebody else and get money for that.
Be careful who you give it to.
Exactly. It might be Ibancar.
Alexander, thank you very much for taking the time. I think the viewers learned a lot about your business and can invest more confidently now with Ibancar in Grupeer or with Grupeer and other platforms. Thank you for taking the time again.
You're welcome.
And I
Thank
think
you so much.
we
all the way to Spain.
Very much enjoyed this interview.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Ich hoffe, dieses Video hat dir gefallen und du konntest einige Dinge mitnehmen. Ibancar ist ein Darlehensanbahner von vielen, aber ich glaube, sie machen ihren Job ziemlich gut und dieses Interview soll dir weiterhelfen, die Risiken und die Chancen von Darlehensanbahnern besser zu verstehen. Falls du was Neues lernen konntest, dann lass mir jetzt doch bitte einen Daumen nach oben da, das hilft mir unglaublich weiter und der YouTube-Algorithmus wird dann dieses Video mehr Privatanlegern empfehlen. Lass mir außerdem ein Abo da, falls du das noch nicht getan hast, um kein Video jeden Sonntag um 18 Uhr mehr zu verpassen. Und hier findest du außerdem noch mein letztes Video und meine Empfehlungen für dich.